Here's a terrifying statistic. The average time it takes organizations to detect a breach is over 200 days. That's not 200 hours, 200 days. More than 6 months, half a year, where an attacker is inside your network and you have no idea they're there. But here's what's even more disturbing. For sophisticated threat actors, that's not a bug, it's a feature. They don't want to get in, grab data, and get out. They want to establish long-term presence. They want to become part of your infrastructure, invisible and persistent, maintaining access for months or even years while they slowly accomplish their objectives. This is the world of advanced persistent threats, of patient adversaries who treat your network like real estate they plan to occupy indefinitely. Today, we're exploring how threat actors establish, maintain, and leverage long-term presence in compromised systems. Because the most dangerous attackers aren't the ones making noise, they're the ones you can't hear at all. Let's dive in. Long-term presence, sometimes called persistence or establishing a foothold, is when an attacker maintains continuous, reliable access to a compromised system or network over an extended period, often surviving reboots, credential changes, and even some security updates. But why would attackers want to stay long-term instead of just stealing what they need and leaving? The reasons vary based on their objectives. Nation-state actors conducting cyber espionage want continuous access to intelligence. They're not after a single document. They want to read your emails as they arrive, access strategic planning discussions in real time, and monitor your organization's activities over months or years. They're playing the long game. Financially motivated attackers might be mapping your entire network, identifying your most valuable data, waiting for the perfect time to strike. They're patient because they want to maximize their payday. They need to find the backup systems, understand your incident response capabilities, and plan an attack that will be devastating before you can react. Some threat actors establish presence as infrastructure for future operations. Your compromised server becomes part of their command and control network, a relay point for other attacks, or a repository for stolen data from multiple victims. And here's something many people don't consider. Attackers maintain long-term presence as insurance. Even if you detect and remove one backdoor, they have 3 others you haven't found. They've layered their access so that kicking them out completely becomes nearly impossible. Dwell time is the metric that keeps security professionals up at night. It's the period between initial compromise and detection. And the numbers are staggering. Industry reports consistently show median dwell times ranging from several weeks to several months, depending on the sector and the sophistication of the attacker. Financial institutions might detect breaches faster due to heavier monitoring. Critical infrastructure, healthcare, and educational institutions often take much longer. But here's the really concerning part. There's a massive difference between breaches detected internally versus externally. When organizations discover breaches themselves through their own security monitoring, dwell time averages around a month. When they're notified by external parties, law enforcement, security researchers, or other victims, dwell time skyrockets to several months or even over a year. Think about what an attacker can accomplish in 200 days. They can exfiltrate your entire customer database. They can steal years of intellectual property and research. They can compromise every system in your network. They can watch how your security team operates and learn how to avoid detection. They can modify financial records, plant false information, or sabotage systems in ways that won't manifest until months after they're gone. And the kicker? Many organizations only discover the breach after the attacker wants them to. Ransomware deployment, data leaks, or when the attacker has already achieved their objectives and doesn't care about staying hidden anymore. So how do attackers maintain long-term presence? They use a combination of technical mechanisms designed to survive detection attempts and system changes. Backdoors are the most straightforward approach. After initial compromise, attackers install secondary access methods, modified system services, hidden user accounts, web shells on internet-facing servers. These give them alternative ways back in if their primary access is discovered and blocked. Think of it as having multiple keys to the same house, hidden in different locations. Rootkits take this further by operating at the kernel level, or even below, in the bootloader or firmware. They're designed to be invisible to the operating system itself. When your antivirus scans for malware, the rootkit can hide the malicious files. When you check running processes, the rootkit conceals the attacker's tools. It's like having an intruder in your house who's also controlling your security cameras. But here's where sophisticated attackers really shine, living off the land. Instead of installing obvious malware that antivirus might catch, they use legitimate system administration tools, PowerShell, WMI, PSExec, Remote Desktop, for malicious purposes. To your security tools, it looks like normal system administration. There's no malicious binary to detect, no obvious malware signature, just legitimate tools being used in illegitimate ways. Scheduled tasks and cron jobs are perfect for persistence. Create a scheduled task that runs at system startup or every few hours, executing a script that checks in with the attacker's command and control server. It's automatic, reliable, and often overlooked. Attackers also compromise legitimate software update mechanisms. By hijacking or mimicking update processes, their malware gets reinstalled even if you clean the system. You think you've removed the threat, but the next update brings it right back. And then there's the supply chain approach, compromising software you intentionally install. This isn't technically persistence on your system, it's persistence in your software pipeline. Every time you deploy that compromised software, you're reinfecting yourself. Maintaining long-term presence isn't just about technical persistence mechanisms, it's about operational discipline. Sophisticated threat actors follow strict protocols to avoid detection. First, they move slowly. Instead of copying your entire database in one night, triggering data loss prevention alerts, and saturating network monitoring, they exfiltrate data in small chunks over weeks or months, indifferent, a few megabytes here, a few gigabytes there, spread across normal business hours when network traffic is already high. It blends into the noise. They maintain minimal footprints. The more malware they install, the more processes they run, the more likely they are to be detected. Advanced attackers often use fileless malware that exists only in memory, leaving minimal traces on disk. When the system reboots, the malware is gone, but their persistence mechanism brings it right back. They study your security operations. What times does your SOC have minimal staff? When do your security scans run? How long until someone investigates an alert? Attackers adapt their behavior to your defensive patterns. They'll pause activities during your quarterly security audits and resume once the auditors leave. Communication with command and control servers is carefully controlled. Instead of constant connections that might be noticed, they use beaconing, periodic check-ins at randomized intervals. They route traffic through compromised legitimate websites or cloud services, so blocked connections look like failed access to normal business applications. They encrypt everything, making payload inspection useless. And here's the sophisticated part. They compartmentalize their operations. Different attackers or automated systems handle different phases, each with limited access. If one component is discovered, it doesn't compromise the entire operation. You find and remove one backdoor, unaware that 3 others remain dormant, waiting to activate. Let's talk about advanced persistent threats, APTs, because they represent the pinnacle of long-term presence operations. APT groups are typically nation-state sponsored or highly organized cybercriminal organizations. They have resources, patience, and clear objectives. Unlike opportunistic attackers, they're targeting specific organizations for specific reasons, and they're willing to invest months or years into a single operation. The APT lifecycle is methodical. Initial reconnaissance might take weeks, studying your organization, identifying targets, researching employees on social media, understanding your technology stack. Initial compromise is careful and targeted, often through spear phishing customized for specific individuals. Once inside, they establish multiple persistence mechanisms immediately. Then comes the long game, lateral movement through your network, Privilege escalation, identifying crown jewel assets, understanding your data flows, mapping your security controls. They're in no rush. They'd rather take 6 months to completely map your network than risk detection by moving too aggressively. Collection and exfiltration happen continuously over the long-term presence period. They're not just stealing data, they're maintaining access to ongoing communications, strategic planning documents, research and development, merger and acquisition discussions. This is intelligence collection, not just data theft. Real-world APT campaigns have maintained presence for multiple years before detection. Some were discovered only because the threat actors got sloppy, made mistakes, or because external intelligence agencies provided warnings. Some were never fully remediated. Organizations removed what they could find, but suspected additional persistence mechanisms remained hidden. So how do you detect and remove threats that are specifically designed to hide long-term? Behavioral analysis is critical. You're not looking for known malware signatures, you're looking for anomalies. User accounts accessing resources they've never accessed before. Data transfers happening at unusual times. Processes executing from strange locations. Lateral movement patterns that don't match normal business workflows. Threat hunting is the proactive approach. Instead of waiting for alerts, security teams actively search through their environment for indicators of compromise. They're asking questions. Are there scheduled tasks we didn't create? Are there network connections to unusual destinations? Are there registry modifications that don't align with known software? Hunting assumes you're already compromised and searches accordingly. Endpoint detection and response. EDR tools provide visibility into what's happening on every device. They record process execution, network connections, file modifications, registry changes. When you discover an incident, you can rewind and see exactly what the attacker did, when they did it, and what persistence mechanisms they might have planted. Network traffic analysis can reveal command and control communications. Even encrypted traffic has patterns: connection timing, packet sizes, connection frequency. Machine learning models can identify anomalous network behavior that might indicate long-term presence. But here's the hard truth. Completely removing a sophisticated long-term threat often requires scorched earth tactics. You can't trust that you found all the backdoors, all the persistence mechanisms, all the compromised accounts. Many organizations end up rebuilding critical systems from scratch, rotating every credential, replacing hardware that might have firmware compromises. It's expensive, disruptive, and sometimes it's the only way to be sure. The best defense against long-term presence is making it as difficult and risky as possible to establish in the first place. Zero trust architecture assumes no user, device, or application is trustworthy by default. Everything must be continuously verified. This makes lateral movement dramatically harder. Even if attackers compromise one system, they can't easily pivot to others. Regular credential rotation, especially for privileged accounts, limits the value of stolen credentials. Multi-factor authentication resistant to phishing, like hardware security keys, prevents attackers from using compromised passwords. Network segmentation and micro-segmentation limit how far attackers can spread. Application whitelisting prevents unauthorized code execution. Regular security audits specifically focused on persistence mechanisms, checking for unauthorized scheduled tasks, services, startup items, can find what automated tools miss. And maybe most importantly, assume you're already compromised and build accordingly. Monitor everything, log everything, have offline, immutable backups. Plan for the day you discover long-term presence, because the question isn't if, it's when. Long-term presence is the silent killer in cybersecurity. The threats you can't see, the attackers who've become part of your infrastructure, the breaches measured in months instead of minutes. And remember, the most dangerous adversary is the one you don't know is there. Stay secure out there.